Welcome to the ASOC Vehicle Retrieval System. Goodbye. Your insurance claim has been sent. Your vehicle has been moved to our storage facility. Please visit us again. Welcome to the ASOC Vehicle Retrieval. Please visit us again. Welcome to the ASOC Vehicle Retrieval System. Your insurance claim has been sent. To the ASOC Vehicle Retrieval System. Vehicle selected.
Hey, it's easy to read out. Maybe chance of playground
Hello
in the morning. And then a garden centre. I'm going to pick out 2 plants for Kaylin and Tiernan. Mom and Dad are planting plants for some reason for each grandchild in the back garden. So playground, garden centre, and then maybe if I can get Mom to hold one of them, take the other one to explore in the afternoon. But this is all ambitious. Actually not too bad, except Kaylin didn't stop crying for 2 hours this evening. She's back Monday, bro. But I kept my cool this evening. And then ice cream truck pulled up at like 7:15. I was like, lads, everyone get your orders out. And the tree just as they're going to bed, ran out the front door. Got an ice cream.
All systems
Got some great pictures of Tyrion
operational.
eating his ice cream. Then he dropped it. Some lessons in life that you can't, no matter how many times I say it, he was flinging around the cone, he wouldn't let me hold it. I was like, you're gonna drop it. Wouldn't listen to me. What else was I gonna say to you? Jeez, you see that Trump thing with the fucking nuclear subs? Mental.
Landing gear retracted. Shields disabled. Quantum travel engaged.
Welcome back to Star Citizen. My name is Even Leeson. Today on 10 Minutes More or Less Ship Review, right behind me, the RSI Constellation Taurus. Let's go ahead and take a look. CF 557 Galderines for the pilot. It ain't terrible at all, especially with what this ship can do for you. Let's out there, and it was almost like, I don't think that should be what this ship's doing. But let's go ahead and talk about that. This ship here is $200 if you're to buy it on the Pledge Store, or if you buy it in game, it's 8,043,840 AUEC, and you can buy that in the city of Lorville. Now, if you were to get destroyed, it is a 17-minute and 6-second claim time, or if you're to expedite it, it is 5 minutes and 42 seconds to expedite it, which ain't terrible at all, especially with what this ship can do for you. Let's talk about that really quick. You can do cargo, you can transport vehicles, and you can transport vehicles up to like a Nursa. It's a pretty big carrier of, ground vehicles. You can't bring a Storm or a Nova in here, but you can definitely transport the vehicles that you need to. Too bad you can't move a ballista or something like that, right? But it can do cargo, vehicle transport, package delivery, bounty hunting. It can do a number of things, but now it's just going to be a little bit more difficult to do certain things. This ship here, with the pilot, the damage per second is 4,908 burst damage per second, which still is not terrible at all, because you have 4 size 5 CF 557 Galderines for the pilot, and I gotta say, that is going to output a ton of firepower for the pilot, which is just fantastic. And then they also have 24 size 2 Strike Force 2 missiles, which, I mean, on top of that firepower, you have 24 missiles. It's too bad you can only launch 4 at a time, especially since you have so many pods that pop up. I wish you can launch as many that are, shown on the top of the ship there, but I mean, you got 24 of them, and you can launch a couple volleys before you run out, which is pretty nice. And then on the top of the ship, you do have a manned turret, which outputs 1,092 burst damage per second due to the 2 size 3 CF 337 Panthers on the top there, which is pretty great. And then with the Taurus here, the bottom turret is replaced with no guns. Now you have a tractor beam. So this is the cargo or freight variant of the Constellation ship. So that bottom turret, it doesn't have guns. It's a tractor beam, and it gives you a pretty good angle to go ahead and lift that cargo up without ever even having to leave your ship, technically, if you go somewhere that the cargo's already on the ground waiting for your pickup. And that's pretty nice, because you and your co-pilot can just sit there and pick up cargo all day long without ever having to leave the safety of your ship, or even having to touch your landing gear to the ground, as you can see here, which is pretty cool. I do love that. And the cargo space on that ramp is actually pretty nice. I gotta say, that elevator, I'm not a fan of elevators, but that one's got a pretty good amount of space, so I appreciate that. Now, this ship does have 1 size size 3 industrial grade C shield generator, giving you 63,400 quadrant shield, which is always great, because if you're getting attacked, all you gotta do is just put the, shield on the side that you're getting hit the most to hopefully protect you for as long as possible, because your ship has 130,040 ship HP, which is actually really great. But you gotta remember, this ship has a lot of engine nacelles, a lot of little parts, a lot of little wing areas, and that can be kind of detrimental to its health pool, because a lot of your HP is spread apart, so it can take a little bit of a beating, but then you got to really think about getting out of there once you start to lose too much of your shield, too much of your health pool. And with this thing now, maneuverability being, pretty stripped there, pretty nerfed, as you would say, or balance fast, which, again, I think it needed it. The ship was a little too agile before with the firepower that it does have. I mean, it's just still, it's got some good firepower. You can still rely on that firepower as long as the cards are good. So your ship HP and your quadrant ship looking pretty good. Now, you do have a top estimate speed of 180 with a 384 191 backwards boost and a 950 nav speed. Again, it's not a ship out there to win any races. It's not going from A to B, in any sort of speed record here, but it is going to do the job on transporting your cargo from one side of the verse to the other with a pretty decent amount of speed, especially compared to some other ships out there that are great. Now let's talk about that maneuverability. Sitting at a 25, 21, 45 pitch yaw roll, and then if you boost, it's 30, 25, 54. Not even if boosted stats are as good as its base stats used to be, which is quite surprising. So now your maneuverability is going to be, it feels very heavy. You're going to see my fighting footage here in just a second. It feels very heavy. It feels really hard to move, which a ship like this, I mean, it has a lot of rear thrust power, but I don't see where you would see a lot of the maneuverability from it. So it makes sense that you're not maneuvering too much. Now you do have 48 flares and 5 decoys, so on par with other ships, but for a freight ship, I wish it had more, just to protect its cargo. And then you have 66 SCU of hydrogen fuel and 4.1 SCU of quantum fuel, which is just fantastic. You gotta love the amount of fuel that you do have on this boat. Now overall, this ship, let's go ahead and take a look at the outside here. I mean, it's a decent looking ship. I think it needs a really big pass on it to really give, an update to its exterior, its paint, its overall texture and feel to the ship, but it's not terrible. It is definitely not terrible, but it's definitely a lot further behind than what you would see in a lot of your newer RSI ships, like the Polaris, the Perseus, the Galaxy. All these ships have a much different design architect than the exterior of this, which some people might actually love the change between this and the Dorito, right? So you have 2 access points on the ground. You have your main elevator here, and then you have your cargo bay here, which you can access from the back here. You hit that button, it drops down, and then the main elevator, which we'll go up to first, just so we can check out the cockpit here. This is where you're going to enter the ship primarily, and then of course your tractor beam comes out right there, as seen on the video earlier. So let's go ahead and hop on the inside here really quick, take a quick look at this thing, and what a beautiful scenery. It's looking really beautiful out. So I just love the area we're at. First thing you're going to see right ahead is your cockpit. Right now, no components or gold standard pass. You do have some relays, and of course you got your ankle height fire extinguishers, which is going to be a really big bummer when you go grab that fire extinguisher and smash your head right into the railing because they're so low. But they are there, and of course the thing I make fun of the most is the random wire going across the floor here, which is fantastic. Your bottom turret, your top turret. Upper turret is the one with the guns, the bottom one's with the cargo, which is just, I love the angle. It's very awesome. A lot of people love that. It has a great functionality to it. And then of course you got your co-pilot seat to the left and to the right, and your main pilot seat direct center, which is pretty nice. The co-pilots are able to help you out a bit, and of course this cockpit over time has had minor changes, like to its MFD layout and everything, and you'll see that here in my combat footage in a second. It looks pretty decent. It's not all in your way, and it looks just great, but the biggest thing in your way is that strut view right there. Oh, it's like looking through the cockpit of a TIE fighter or something. I don't know. I just, this thing is just ridiculous when it comes to the struts, especially the 2 directly in your face. I think a lot of these will disappear once this ship gets its true pass, which hopefully is sooner rather than later. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the next room here. This is your, living area for the crew. This is where you're gonna have your storage lockers, your bathroom, your sitting area for anybody to have some food. First, we'll start with the bathroom here, and okay, we'll go ahead and close that. There was somebody in the bathroom, so that wasn't a good timing on that one. And then if you're to go ahead and open up your storage, of course, you can go ahead and store any items you have here, which is nice. You got 1, 2, 3, 5 of those, and then you only have 2 spots for your guns, which is honestly kind of surprising. But grab a gun, and you can go ahead and place it here. Boom. Now you got a spot and run right there. So only 2 weapons you're bringing with you for a crew of 3 to 5, right? So kind of too bad. And then, of course, like I said, you have a nice bench area with a nice table to go ahead and sit down and eat, and some storage area to the right there, as well as 4 beds, which still have graphical bugs underneath the beds. As you can see, the floor is kind of gone, and that is a graphical bug, not a feature. You might want to be careful laying in this bed. It might never come back out. But yep, you do got your 4 beds there, and then the next door leads to your cargo room, which is where you're going to have even more component access areas in the future. And there's your main cargo grid right there. You're going to be able to put any sort of vehicles right there, cargo, and you can carry 174 SCU cargo, which is pretty good. It's a pretty decent amount of cargo for a ship like this, especially with the firepower you do have. Now on each side of the ship, you have this massive, missile rack here, which is just abundantly a hazard. Really, it's absolutely a hazard. But it's here and it's visible. It looks really cool. It looks neat. And then you have 2 airlocks, so 2 more entrances to the ship, but they are very dangerous. Be careful not to be on the outside when they open, because they do open at the speed of sound. Now you go ahead and get into your ship in EVA. Wow, could you imagine being close to that when that thing closes? That is insane. Now you will have your future components here along the walls and in the back here, but as of right now, again, no components pass. And then the most reasonably placed fire extinguisher, kind of at chest height, good grab, easy. And then you walk through this next door, and you have more component areas, including a relay area and another ankle height fire extinguisher, just too bad. And then walking into the next room is where you're gonna have what's considered another cargo room. This one is supposed to be maybe a concealed cargo room, where you can take your more suspicious cargo, put it back here, and it will be shielded, allowing you to carry some not so friendly things, which someday, right? Now that is it for the RSI Constellation Taurus. It is a pretty fantastic ship. So let's go ahead and take a look at the combat footage really quick, and then I'll give you my score. All right, as you can see, this ship still retains this massive amount of firepower, and it does really good at the cargo game, but I mean, it's not as much cargo as you can carry with some other ships around this price point, so that's why you get a little bit of a drop-off in points there. But I mean, overall, it's still a fantastic multi-use ship, from damaging opponents, going bounty hunting, doing cargo, doing some sort of delivery. I mean, it's just a fantastic overall day-to-day runner, and I think it's a fantastic pick if you're out there looking for a multi-tool of ships. The Constellation Taurus is an 81 out of 100 for me. I really do think that its design is a bit old school. I like the Dorito a little bit more with RSI's newer ships, but this ship is still great in its multi-use realm. I can't wait to see the Galaxy, honestly. That's going to be an interesting ship. Let me know what you think of the Taurus, especially now with the balance pass that is coming with 4.2.1, making this ship a lot less agile. Honestly, in my opinion, I like that, but it still does hit a little bit hard on the score there. So let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I just love making these, and my son just gets to get a good kick out of them. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being members on YouTube and Patreon. You all are truly amazing, and I will see you all in the next one. Hello and welcome back to Star Citizen. My name is Even Leeson. Today on 10 Minutes More or Less Ship Review, right behind me, the Robert Space Industries Constellation Andromeda. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Mom, Dad, we have some news. We're switchers! We got a fantastic...
Hello and welcome back to Star Citizen. My name is Even Lease, and today on 10 Minutes More or Less Ship Review, right behind me, the Consolidated Outlands Mustang Delta, a light fighter. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Careful! Big smile for mommy, and careful with the ice cream, and hold it up in the sky. Yeah! Very good.
The review today, the Mustang Delta, another variant of the Mustang series of starter ships. This one here is considered a light fighter because it has a few more weapons, it outputs great damage, has great shields, and we're about to go over all that information. Before we do, I want to let you know I am using the stats from 3.2 and game version 4.0. So with that, this ship, if you were to buy it on the Pledge store when it is available, it is $65. Now, if you buy it in game, it is $1,200,000. Hello and welcome back to Star Citizen. My name is Even Lease, and today on 10 Minutes More or Less Ship Review, right behind me, the Consolidated Outlands Mustang Alpha. Another starter ship. Let's go ahead and take a look. This is basically the competitor to the Aurora MR, just due to the price points being pretty much similar. It is another starter ship, and it sits at a decent price for what it can do, I guess. But we'll go ahead and take a look at all the details here in just a second. I want to make sure to remind you, I do have a giveaway going on right now for the new Fortune salvage vehicle by Misk, so make sure you enter into that giveaway if you haven't already. It is on my channel. Find that video and comment for your chance to win that. Now, getting into this ship here, the Mustang Alpha, just like the Aurora MR, is priced pretty much the same. It is $30 if you were to buy it standalone, or it's $45 if you buy it as a game pack. So if you're new to the game and you're looking at this ship, or you're looking at the Aurora, I'm going to tell you what the differences between the two are. Now, if you buy the ship in-game, it is $642,600 AUEC. Definitely not a bad in-game price, but this ship is kind of limited on what it can do compared to the Aurora in some regards. Not all regards, but in some. It's kind of a toss-up. It just depends on what you're looking for, but the biggest thing that's changed with this ship compared to that one is there's no living space. There's no bed. You can't sleep in this thing, so you have to make sure you land at a station or a home base and, you know, take rest at a hab, and not be able to lay in a bed in this ship means that you can't just park it anywhere and call it a day, right? Which is honestly too bad, but that is your biggest difference between this and the Aurora MR. Now, this ship for the pilot does have 350 damage per second due to the two size 2 CF227 Badgers at the front of that ship. And it also has two empty size 1 hardpoints, allowing you to put two size 1 guns on here as well, almost doubling the firepower, which is awesome. But it's kind of just like the Aurora in that regard, except for the Aurora, it doesn't have size 2 guns. It's all size 1 guns around with that one. So another thing with this ship, there's no missiles for the pilot, which is really too bad. Even having 2 missiles does make the difference compared to having no missiles at all. So that's kind of a bummer, but this ship does excel in other areas, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment. Before I do that, I do want to let you know this ship does have 2 size 1 shield generators outputting 2,800 bubble shield. Not the greatest amount of shield, but you know, you can upgrade those shield generators and definitely output the same as the Aurora. It just comes stock with shield generators that aren't that great. Now it does have 9,231 HP, so a little bit better in the health pool area, which is good. It's always nice to have a little bit more health, but then you got to ask, well, why does it have more health? Well, because this ship has wings, and this ship has engines that protrude from the body, and it causes more issues because now that health is distributed throughout the ship a little bit differently, which means that you could get taken out of the sky or space a little bit quicker. Always something to focus on. Now the ship does go 225 SCM as a top speed with a 500 forward boost and a 260 backwards boost with a top navigation speed of 1,200. So it's not slow, like the slowest thing out there, especially in starter ship regards, because the Cutter is actually one of the slower ones. But this matches the Aurora in that, so that's great. I like that. And this ship outmaneuvers the Aurora. It outmaneuvers quite a few starter ships, sitting at a 72.
Grab half-price broadband in the Virgin Media Playhouse from just €35 a month. Virgin Media, it's playtime.
54-205 pitch yaw roll. The yaw is surprisingly a little bit lower. I was expecting it to be closer to the pitch, but with that, this ship does maneuver quite well. It actually can fight against ships like the Arrow and Gladius a little bit easier compared to something like the Aurora, where it has its maneuverability kind of not nearly as good as that. So something to consider there. This ship does have a pretty small fuel tank as well for its hydrogen and its quantum fuel, sitting at 6 SCU of hydrogen and 1.1 quantum fuel. So not a very high amount of fuel. Whether you're exploring planets or jumping across the system, you're going to have to constantly go to stations and refuel this ship. So expect that. Definitely. But let's go ahead and talk about what this ship can do for you, okay? Because it's a starter ship, and you have to know, well, if I'm going to get this game, or maybe I just want to get a different ship, is this ship going to be able to do anything for me? Let's go ahead and take a look. Starting off, right here is my player character, and yes, I understand that my character is thirsty. I will drink, I promise. Now, I want to tell you, there is no gold standard or components pass, so you cannot access your components on this ship. It's one of the older ships in the game. That's why its textures, that's why its overall body frame, everything kind of just looks rugged, kind of rough compared to a lot of your newer ships today. Just the angles look a little bit rough and everything, and it's just one of the older design ships. Now you can access your inventory if you press and hold F. You can go ahead and open storage here, allowing you to store some things, which is kind of nice. There is no interior on this model of the Mustang, so there is a model that has an interior back here with a living space, but this one does not. You just get into the cockpit and that is it. Now, if you were to go ahead and hold F and open the pilot canopy, you could use this technically. You could take a tractor beam and tractor beam a small box back there, or if you just head to the back of the ship, this ship does have a cargo pod. Basically, it looks like something you'd see in a shipping container, almost like a small shipping container. So if you drop this down, you can go ahead and open up this door here, allowing you to store, deliveries and up to 4 SCU of cargo on this grid. As you can see in the videos here, loading cargo manually in this ship is a real pain in the rear. You have to have it almost perfect, and then it'll give you that zone to put the box in there. From there, you can just grab the box again and then just push it to the back, which is nice, but it's just kind of a big struggle getting the boxes in there in the first place. Getting the boxes out, very easy. I'm going to show you right now, just right here. I left one box in there. All you got to do is just grab it, and then you can just pull the box straight out. Definitely no problem there, which is nice. But getting it in, if you don't have it at the right angle, it just can be a real struggle, and that's just, there we go. You get better at it the more you do it, but obviously that goes with anything, right? So it's just nice that it does have this storage area. If you knock someone out, you can throw them in there and lock them up, right? So it's somewhat of a bounty hunter, you could say. Now, what else could you do? You got 4 SCU of cargo. You got some space for deliveries. You can definitely do some minor bounties with the ship, which, just like with the Aurora, let's do a quick battle. I'll show you. It's just going to be against AI, but it can hold its own. You just got to be careful not to lose those wings. Let's go ahead and do that really quick, and I'll give you my score. Which has always been issue taking care of those smaller AI targets, and honestly, its maneuverability is fantastic. The view outside of that cockpit is just awesome. There's no annoying struts in the way like with the Aurora, which has always been something that's kind of bothered me with that ship, as well as most RSI ships that have the strut issue. But honestly, this ship still does a great job at the price point that you're sitting at. Now, if you were to compare it to all starter ships out there, there are quite a few starter ships that do so much more and so much better than this or the Aurora, so it just depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a very basic starter pack to get into the game, this is a good option. It allows you to put up a little bit more of a fight, but you're missing out on that bed that the Aurora has, which allows you to log out wherever you want, and that is something to also consider. Now with that, my score is a 5 out of 10. Honestly, there are a few things I'd like to hit on. The firepower and the missiles are really low compared to so many starters out there. And then you have a very limited amount of fuel. You don't have your gold components pass, and then you don't have any sort of bed or living area in this model of the Mustang Alpha. Let me know, what do you think of this ship down in the comments below. Is this a ship that you prefer over the Aurora? But I mean, honestly, knowing a lot of us out there, including myself, there is plenty of starter ships that definitely are a little bit above this. So, but then again, it's all about personal preference and what you're looking to do when you get into the game. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Make sure you keep an eye out for more giveaways, more videos, and again, I'll see you guys in the next one. Why, I just got this nice refreshment and I was hoping for some pizza. Can I have a slice of pizza, please?
Welcome to the ASOC Vehicle Retrieval System. Your insurance claim has been sent. Your vehicle, please visit us again. Goodbye. Welcome to the vehicle selected. Stand by.
And over until I throw up in my mouth, but instead let's do something a little bit different. I'm gonna be heading over to Everest Harbor. We won't be running cargo, so might as well just pack up the spindles and get the heck on out of here. I'm gonna tell you right now, there is more to Star Citizen than grinding for money, and that's coming from somebody who probably grinds harder than anybody else. What's more important is finding your fun when you first start playing Star Citizen. Now this next method might not make us more money, but it is most definitely more fun. It's a little bit more dangerous and requires to build off previous skills of not blowing yourself up and knowing how to get there. So let's make ourselves a regeneration point right here. We're going to transfer our imprint to Everest Harbor. Let's head down to the cesspool of a city called Lorville. We have a few things to pick up. Cadet, earlier in the video when I was going over the flight mechanics, I kind of glossed over two super duper important terms, and that's nav mode and SCM mode. Currently I'm in nav mode, and this is mostly used to get from point A to point B or to move really quickly. Now the drawback to nav mode is you do not have shields engaged, so yeah, keep that in mind. There are multiple reasons why you want to be in SCM mode. The first one being you're landing and you don't want to blow yourself up. The second reason is you're
Landing. Shields disabled.
about to be or in actual combat. You know, shields are a really super good thing then. I'll cover the last one when we're mining later in the video. Just keep in mind in SCM mode you do not have access to your quantum drive. In the Lorville Airport, there's a store named New Deal where you can actually purchase ships or ground-based vehicles, and we're going to end up purchasing a ground-based vehicle right now instead of renting one. The Grey Cat Rock is only going to set us back a little under 104,000 AUEC, and ironically it only took, 2 of those cargo missions to get that much money? So yeah, we're definitely going to buy this right now instead of renting it later. Next, you'll want to hit up the Metro Center Spaceport line, get onto this tram here, and it's actually going to take you to the Workers District in Lorville. We're going to have to hit up a little store called Trammy & Sons. When you get off the tram, you can use your little mini map in the upper left-hand corner to find Trammy & Sons or just follow the signs. When you get inside, you want to hit up the terminal, and then in the search bar, you want to start typing in Pembroke. We're going to want to buy each one of these. We're going to buy the suit, we're going to buy the backpack, and we're going to buy the helmet. Just outside of Trammy & Sons, there will be storage access ports where you can put on your new set of Pembroke armor that you just purchased. However, sometimes Hawks gets a little too excited and his big brain actually ends up being a super duper gigantic smooth brain. I forgot to buy a couple more things, so we're going to have to head back into Trammy & Sons. The orbit mining attachment is totally optional. You don't need this, I just like to buy it anyway, but you most definitely need to buy some Cruise Lux. Cruise Lux will fill up your thirst as well as your hunger bar. Just make sure you get at least 2 bottles of those and you keep them stacked in your inventory. Now, it's a little bit early to drink, but let me show you the process. Press I to open your inventory, take off your helmet, then right click on the Lux and click Inspect. Look at the bottle, hold down left click on your mouse until you've completely drank the entire bottle of Lux. Press I again to open up your inventory. Now don't be a litter bug, throw that empty bottle into your inventory again because it's going to be useful. I'll show you here in just a second. Once you finish drinking, stack those bottles in your inventory. The next time we inspect them again to drink, they're going to be full. Head back to the airport. You're looking for the Vantage rental kiosk here. We will be renting the Cutlass Black. You can also rent one at any refinery deck at L1 stations, any cargo center located at a main station around a planet, and any of the jump point space stations, so they're pretty much everywhere if you need to rent one. The Cutlass Black is a medium-sized ship, so we cannot go to our personal hangar and try to pull it out there. We will need to pull it out here at the Fleet Manager Terminal. If you're inside your personal hangar and you try to pull out a ship that's too big, it won't even appear in the list. Our next stop is at Hurl 1 Greenglade Station. Now if you want to actually rent a rock, you can rent one from here if you didn't buy one already. Cadet, on my main account, the very first ship that I ever purchased to play Star Citizen all those years ago was the Cutlass Black. She's completely glorious. The Cutlass Black is basically a jack of all trades, but not really a master of anything. It can do commodity trading, bunker missions, rock mining, as well as ship-to-ship combat. As a new player, the Cutlass Black is an amazing rental because it will help you find your fun in whatever you want to do in a small scale, and then when you find out that you like that thing, then you just rent a bigger and better ship. After I go buy my laser for the rock, I plan to load it into the Cutlass Black, so we might as well store the ship now, which you won't really be able to do unless you claim that rock from here if you purchased it in Lorville. Locate the elevators in the very far back of the station. We're going to be heading to the refinery deck. Head inside the Mining Support Center, hit up the kiosk on the right hand side there, type in Helix. You're looking for the S0 Helix head, that's for the rock. Here's a crash course on how to modify parts on a vehicle. Click on the Vehicles tab, select the ship that you're after. In our case, it's the Grey Cat Rock. We're going to hit the Utilities tabs up, and then we're going to click on the SO Mining Laser. Just make sure that you save and equip the changes, or they will not save. Adding parts to a rental ship is a bit more drama. I'll show you how to do that when we end up using the rental mole. To get inside, you just stand in front of the rock, press the F key, and it'll start a process where you just kind of get in and everything kind of closes around you. Now to turn it on, you can either F key over the power button or press left Alt R for flight ready. I need to get the rock out of the way so we can call it the Cutlass Black, so let's just stuff it in the elevator. At this point, we bought a rock, we went and bought all the gear we needed to go rock mining, went over and got a laser head, we put it on the rock. Now we got to stuff the rock inside the Cutlass Black, which ironically is where I talk about how much of a tight fit it is and how everybody likes tight fits. But yeah, we haven't even finished preparing yet. Had we kept pounding out those cargo missions, sure, the puke in our mouthometer would have kept going up, but we also wouldn't be stuck in the perpetual loop of Prepare Citizen. Our final destination playing Prepare Citizen is Everest Harbor, where I plan to hit up the Cargo Service Center and grab a big giant box to stuff a whole bunch of gems into. Sure would suck if some space murder hobos came by and killed me, stealing all my gems. Don't worry, I'll keep you safe. What the hell is going on? Yeah, so I guess landing inside your own personal hangar can sometimes get your ship impounded. Ain't that awesome? So we head over to the cargo services, went to the container section. I'm going to stroll down and buy a 2 SCU storage box. That should be plenty of room for all the gems we're going to be mining. Chris Roberts giveth, and then Chris Roberts taketh away. I have no idea what I did wrong other than attempt to land inside my personal hangar. Guess I'll bend over and take it in the space keister, paying that 5,000 AUE fine. You know, because I deserved it, I guess. Now, I really could have just glossed over all these little steps and playing Prepare Citizen, because there are many little steps you have to complete before you can actually go out and do the thing. The good news is, once we get this container on board our ship, we will finally be ready to go out and start making that space cheddar again. Sadly, past me didn't know just how much Aberdeen sucks now for rock mining once they added the worms to the patch, but I'll show you the clown shoes. For years now, my 2 favorite places to rock mine in the Stanton system has always been Aberdeen, well, not anymore because it sucks now, as well as Daymar. I hadn't even tested Daymar yet, but yeah, I spent about 25 to 30 minutes just looking for gems, and I only ended up finding 2 patches, which is totally horrible. Here's the first patch of Baradom I found, and Baradom isn't the most glorious. It's only the middle of the road element, but since I had been looking for so long, yeah, definitely gonna stop by and mine it. Cadet, I am going to gloss over pretty much all the Aberdeen footage, so you are kind of knowing what you're going to be getting into before I actually start explaining and teaching you how to do it. Here is the second patch of gems I ended up finding before we bail out to Ariel, and it is another patch of Baradom, unfortunately. I spent about 12.5 minutes to find this patch from taking off from the last one. That is absolutely horrible. If you are spending that much time to find gem patches, this is not going to be a very profitable venture for you. From my experience, the gem spawns got really screwed up when they added the worms to Aberdeen. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't recommend that you go here unless you're into wasting a whole bunch of time. Ariel, on the other hand, is totally win. Rule number 1 of staying safe while rock mining is to pick a random OM marker and fly there, then go down to the surface from that location. Do not QT down to any of the surface locations, or murder hobos might find you while you're rock mining, and you don't want any of that. When you get down to the surface, stay into nav mode so you can fly around quickly, and press tab in order to ping. The act of pinging will reveal a bunch of unknown targets and their distances to you. What you're looking for is any target that appears on your radar after your first ping that is under 5 kilometers.
Shields enabled. Friendly fire. Shield hit. Friendly fire.
Kilometers away. Now that patch of rocks right there is not what we're looking for, but after if you haven't mastered the skills of wax on, that word of warning, if you screw up wax on, wax off, or sand the floor, you're gonna lose that mining head and all of its attachments. When you're seated in the chair, don't forget to press right Alt and K to put it into your personal inventory, which is quite handy. Time to spend money to make money. Hit up the kiosk and then start typing in the word Hofstede. We're going to be getting the Hofstede S2 mining laser. This time start typing in focus. You're going to want to buy the focus there. All of the Hurston Dynamics mining stations will pay top dollar for your gems. It's just you always want to make sure you pick your safest option. When you're loaded down with gems, you ultimately want to find a good sell location on Hurston somewhere that has nobody there, and Stand and Hope right now is clear. We're in an armistice zone right now, so our weapon wheel isn't going to work. You'll have to put your pyro multi-tool in your pocket and then inspect it in order to get it in your hand. Now you can use it. Just like when we did all those contracted cargo missions, we need to move our box into the freight elevator and then send it down into the local inventory. Once your box is in local, move it back over to the left-hand side, double-click to open it. Now you're going to have to move one stack of gems at a time, because if you select them all and move them all, it's only going to move one stack. It's kind of ridiculous. Don't forget to send that empty box back up. We have to repeat the exact same process you just saw, since we have more gems to take care of. We have to put them in the freight elevator, send it down, move the box over, double-click to open it, and then move all the gems over one stack at a time. Cadet, if there is anybody around, never ever do this process, because whoever sends that box full of gems down into the personal inventory, it is their box, so just be careful. To sell your gems, look for the building with the orange light on the outside, click on the kiosk, and then select your local inventory. Let's get to selling our gems. Now, the Baradom itself is not going to be worth very much. It's only worth half as much as the Bameline. With all of our gems sold, we ended up making a little over 760k, which isn't all that bad considering how long we played Prepare Citizen. Time to tackle our next task, Cadet. I hope you've learned how to sand the floor. Our next stop is Hurl to the Fateful Dream Station. It is now time to take our money-making potential to the next level. Cadet, I'm going to be frank with you. If you haven't mastered the skills of wax on, wax off, pick up the jacket, put on the jacket, as well as sand the floor, this is not going to be any fun. It is extremely important that you master those skills before you get naked in preparation for our next stage. I mean, I guess you could still use the gigantic Michelin Man suit to do what we're doing, but instead it's better to hit up the kiosk in the Mining Support Center so you can buy yourself a full set of armor. Now, if you really like Star Citizen like I do, make sure it's a white set of armor so everyone can call you a White Knight.
Welcome.
Buying items from a display stand is actually pretty cool, because if you hold F on the item, then step back, it'll put it into your personal inventory, which is quite handy. Time to spend money to make money. Hit up the kiosk and then start typing in the word Hofstede. We're going to be getting the Hofstede S2 mining laser. This time start typing in Focus. You're going to want to buy the Focus 3 module. The last thing we need is the Riker C3 module. Look for Vantage Rentals nearby. You will be wanting to rent the Argo Mole, and the main reason why I'm highlighting this rental is because so many YouTubers say it's not worth it. Sure, it looks like it's expensive up front, and we bought a bunch of parts and a mining head, but we're going to make all that money back on our first trip. Alright, so this is a rental ship, so technically you're not supposed to add parts to it, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. First, you want to get into your captain's chair, and then you want to hit right Alt and K. That's going to unlock all your ship ports. Head back outside, pull out your tractor beam attachment, and then pull that head downwards. It will take it off the mole, and you can just store it anywhere. You can store the arbor head here, although I'm likely going to regret that later. Just make sure to pull out the Hofstede and the 2 modules. We're going to get those stuck on the mole right now. Your parts are likely going to look like they're stuck in the floor, but don't worry about it. You'll be able to pull it out. To rotate an object horizontally, you just need to wheel up and wheel down on the mouse while holding R. Now that we have the Hofstede attached to the mole, it is now time to repeat the exact same steps with each of the modules. Cadet, word of warning, if you screw up wax on, wax off, or sand the floor, you're going to lose that mining head and all of its attachments. When you're seated in the chair, don't forget to press right Alt and K to lock your ship ports again, and then adjust your power in SCM mode to make sure you have all power to your lasers, full power to shields, and as much engine power as you can muster. Now our next stop is Crew 01 at the Ambitious Dream Station. When you get to Crew 01, the very first thing you want to do is take that arbor head out of your mole and store it in your personal hangar. This is most definitely going to save you money later. I joked that you forgot to do that. The station is now our main base of operations, so don't forget to transfer your imprint to this location. The Hofstede on the rental mole will most definitely take our money-making potential to the next level, so we might as well go to the most glorious place to mine in the Stanton system, and that's on Selling. Just like with rock mining, we are not going to go to any surface locations marked by those upside-down triangles, because that is going to definitely increase our chance of getting ganked. Instead, we will once again pick a random OM marker and then fly down to any imperfections we see on the moon's surface. When you get down to the surface, start pinging away. The main difference between rock mining and mole mining is we're looking for returns that are less than 13
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I doubt there's only ever two that are nearby, but it's actually
kilometers away, but greater than 5 kilometers in distance after the first ping. That way we will always find the exact type of rocks that we're looking for. Alright, so we found our first patch of rocks here. Now the main difference between mole mining and rock mining is all of these rocks are likely going to be different. It's not like gem mining where they're basically all the same. In order to see the differences, you will want to press M for mining mode while in your captain's chair. This will allow you to scan all the rocks that are there at the location. In the Stanton system, we are going to be looking for Quantanium, Terranite, Bexylite, and gold to a lesser extent. We're not going to be mining anything else. Painting the fence is an extremely useful tool to the mole miner. That means parking your mole in such a way that your laser head on the front there will be in its optimum range. Definitely make sure to switch to SCM mode before you do any mining. You need your shields. To turn on your mining laser, you just need to activate the mouse cursor and then look for the power button in the top center left of the screen. When it comes to mole mining or rock mining, they are basically exactly the same when it comes to charge level as well as the laser range. This is why practicing sand the floor when we were rock mining is extremely important, because if we make even one mistake right now, we'll probably lose the laser head. Not all of these chunks that just broke off the main rock are all going to be created equal, alright? The ones that have a purple outline means you can scoop them, and anything that you scan with the yellow outline means you have to further crack them down. What I like to do is get everything scanned and then start cracking on any of the yellow ones that are left over before I will further scan those down and then decide what I'm actually going to start keeping. I'm going to tell you right now, always just be in that habit, because when you start cracking and scooping Quantanium rocks, well, the second that you scoop a Quantanium rock, you are going to get a countdown timer. When that countdown timer reaches 0, well, that bag's going to blow up, which generally causes a chain reaction blowing up your ship. Once you understand the procedure of crack the things, scan all the things before you scoop any of the things, you can then start wrapping your mind around the philosophy of getting in and getting out really quick. It's not about being greedy and looking for the perfect rock. It's about getting in there, finding a decent rock, cracking it, then scooping it to get the heck on out of there as quick as possible. Let finding those perfect rocks be your happy accident. Don't go out of your way to look for them, because that is going to waste your time, and time is money. Case in point, when I flew down to this patch here, this was actually the smaller patch according to the readings. The other one that was only a few kilometers away was much bigger. My master plan was to swoop down to this closer patch here and hopefully find at least one rock that was half decent before going over to the bigger patch to likely find another rock. The funny thing is, this patch might have been small, but it had Terranite in it, and Terranite's really good. On the other hand, the second patch that was even bigger, the only good rock here is basically this gold rock. As far as the value of minerals go, Quantanium is generally worth over 26k per SCU, Terranite's worth 9.7k, Bexylite's worth 7.4k, and gold, well, it's only worth 6.7k. Anything else that you come across, I'm going to tell you right now, in the Stanton system is not worth your time to mine. Unfortunately, that last chunk kind of slipped below my radius to be able to scoop it up with the front laser, so I guess I'll have to move the mole later and, scoop it up at the very end. Had I approached that rock with a slightly bigger brain, meaning I had the mole on the other side of it, where if anything rolled down the hill, I'd still be able to reach it with the mining laser, that would have been way, way smarter. And that's the cool thing, you think you do everything right, and then you actually learn something along the way. Now, I should have known much better at this point, because yeah, gravity means that rock's going to move downhill, and now I've got to move the mole and reposition it before I can scoop up this rock here. With all the gold scarfed up, I looked for another patch, which was right next door and happens to be granite. Granite's totally awesome because it has a higher chance to spawn Quantanium. With another patch being so close, it's also going to be granite, but sadly, there's no Quantanium there. This is a Quantanium rock, so we want to make sure that we are painting the fence correctly. We have to park a mole where we're relatively close to the optimum line. The Hofstede laser and that Focus 3 module have a bonus to the window size, so this is going to greatly help you crack those Quantanium rocks. Let me explain why the skill sand the floor is so important, especially when you're cracking Quantanium rocks. On your laser range, there is the optimum line, which happens to be green for us, but if we are cracking rocks and we overheat them at any time, that little zigzag line at the top up there is going to get closer and closer to the optimum line. If the rock cracks or detonates past that optimum line, or the line where you're located at on that bar, it means that your ship, that laser head, and the modules will most likely take damage. You will likely not blow up your ship on a sub crack. Just be really careful on your main crack, because that can detonate your ship. As far as your modules and that mining laser head, you do not want them to really take damage because they can become inoperable. Well, looks like it's time to get the heck on out of here. Let's head to Crew 01 to start the refining process, which ironically will net us more profits than it cost us to buy all the crap and to rent the rental mole, so I don't understand why it gets such a bad rap. As far as rental ships go, in my opinion, the mole is one of the very best because it can slingshot you into mega profits really quick. Just don't look at the rental cost and go, this ship sucks, because you know what? You'd be wrong. Do yourself a favor, when exiting the mole, just jump out of one of the mole arms. It's way faster than going down the elevator. Before you can refine the ore that's located inside the mole bags, you do have to store the mole because you cannot process it while it's on the pad. Make your way to the refinery deck, and instead of heading into the mining support center, we're going to walk up these stairs here. Now on the left hand side you can sell raw ore, but we're interested in processing our ore. Hit up the refinery terminal to begin the refining process. You just select which ship you have, in our case it's the Argo Mole, and then set up the work order. We only want to refine the good stuff, so we're going to toggle the Quantanium, the Gold, and the Terranite. There are only two processing methods that I will recommend. The first is Dinks, which takes longer, then there is Ferron Exchange. Ironically, I recorded all this footage just before 4.2 landed, so refining times are twice as fast. In 4.2, it would only take us 10 hours to refine this order.
The door says finance, but the only thing I manage are receipts or reimbursements.
SAP Concur uses AI to move expense management to the background, so you can get off the paper trail and be grow your business ready.
In a nutshell, that is mole mining as well as the refining process. Might as well fill up my hydration for the third time in this video. I'm gonna have to start breaking my neck in order to get everything done before I fill up my hydration 4 times. Like, I had this little thought pop in my head of, go over there and buy a backpack, Hawks. You might go loot something later while the orders are processing. So, I don't even know why I did it right now, but I did it. The funny thing is, you think that we're mole mining, but we're actually playing the break your legs over and over again simulator. The act of dropping down that chute in order to get to the mining laser instead of taking the ladder as well as jumping out one of the laser arms means we're going to break our legs a whole bunch. Instead of using med pens, even though I bought a bunch of them, you can head over to the medical room that's assigned to you and just lay in this bed. It will fix up your health all the way as well as top off your food and water. Back to selling for our second run. Now this run right here, this is what I'm talking about when I mean getting in and getting out as quickly as you can. I flew down from Ohm 1, then found this really nice Bexolite rock here. Bexolite isn't Quantanium or Terranite, but it's not gold either, and since half this rock is pretty much Bexolite, it's going to be worth a decent amount. In this exact same patch, we found another smallish rock of Bexolite, which was a high percentage, so, you know, might as well mine that up too. After scarfing up those 2 rocks, ironically, there was another 2 rocks that were right next to each other in the exact same patch. This one's a gold rock with a decent percentage, and the rock just off to the right is sort of a crappy rock, but it's Bexolite, and we'll just pick through the best pieces. As far as paint the fence is concerned, I pretty much have it spot on this time. If getting in and out as quick as you can is your goal like I recommend, well, this run is definitely what I'm talking about. Found the very first patch, and the very first patch had multiple rocks that I could mine. I literally didn't have to go anywhere else to top off the mole. Let's head back to Crew 01 to refine our order. Now I will be skipping ahead to the refinery part where I'm on my very last order of the day. It's the 5th order. But before we do that, we want to make sure that we save our mining head. When you finish mining for the day, just make sure you take that Hofstede mining laser off with the mods attached and stuff it into your freight elevator. If you ever want to rent that mole again, well, you have that mining laser and all the mods ready to go at your home location. My last run of the day here, you know, it actually kind of sucked. It was really fast. I went to the very first patch and scarfed up what I could, but unfortunately, what I could scarf up sucked. The next day rolls around, I still have some time to kill, and then I realize I don't know how to count. Remember that backpack I bought? Well, the master plan was to actually go out into the world. In our case, I headed over to the Microtech system, then picked a random mining facility so I could just go from building to building to rat around and look for some loot. This facility is protected by an armistice zone, which means the red boxes we find will not contain weapons inside. In the white boxes, you'll find fruits, vegetables, food, water, as well as pyro multi-tools and their attachments, as well as clothing items. Now, in red boxes, you're going to be finding primarily armor. If you're going to do a little ratting around for loot like I'm doing right now, don't be a big, gigantic, smooth brain. Be a big brain that has folds in it, all right? Have a large backpack when you're doing this because it'll save you a whole bunch of back and forth trips. Here's my last drop off at our second location and we got hooked up. Here's that moment where I'm like, aha! I'll go buy a large body armor and a large backpack to make looting way easier. And then I remembered item insurance. I don't have to stock up on a whole bunch of crap. Before item insurance when you died, you pretty much lost everything. Now that we have item insurance, when you die, you don't lose anything equipped, only things that are stored within your inventory. I've got all my craps dropped off. Now let's head somewhere else that does not have an armistice zone. It's called Bud's Growery. When you come here, just be careful. At the top left of your screen, there will generally be the ever-watchful eye of the satellites, and there will be a Ghostbuster sign when you're in an armistice zone. We have neither, meaning we can be killed without any repercussions. There is a ship right next to us, and that could mean a couple things. You'll find fruits, vegetables, food, water, as well as pyro multi-tools and their attachments, as well as clothing. Lost everything. Now that we have item insurance, when you die, you don't lose any stuff. Now let's head somewhere else. Be careful. At the top left of your screen, there will generally be the ever-watchful eye of the satellites, and there will be a Ghostbuster sign when you're in an armistice zone. We have neither, meaning we can be killed without any repercussions. There is a ship right next to us, and that could mean a couple things. Either it's an abandoned ship, or there's somebody inside here looting as well. The first room was totally empty. The second room looks completely empty as well, and this is generally the jackpot room, which isn't looking good already. This back room can have 5 different loot locations where loot will spawn, and it looks like this place has been completely and totally picked clean. What most likely happened is they heard me landing and then they logged out to the menus. Speaking of logging out to the menus, just lay down in your bed, then log out. If you have a bed, and if you don't have one in your ship, well, I'm sorry. When your server's been picked clean like that, just do a region hop and then log right back into the game. This part's super important, alright? As soon as you get out of your bed, get to the pilot's chair, take off and land, because if you exit the ship, it's going to disappear. I will not be able to bed log anymore due to that smooth brain mistake, but at least we're finding red crates. These red crates can contain weapons, ammo, and armor, so make sure you prioritize rifles, sniper rifles, grenade launchers, and railguns when you're looting. Leave behind shotguns if you can't take them. This F55 LMG is a really good gun. Like, it holds so much ammo. We're finding red crates. These red crates can contain weapons, ammo, and armor, so make sure you prioritize rifles, sniper rifles, grenade launchers, and railguns when you're looting. Leave behind shotguns if you can't take them. This F55 LMG is a really good gun. Like, it holds so much ammo in it, it's freaking ridiculous. Found some armor and another shotgun. Sure does suck I don't have a large backpack right now. The last room looks completely cleared out, so might as well just log out to the menus. It's basically our only way home. When you log out of the game and back in like I just did, it's going to put you on the very last space station or planet location that you were at. In our case, it's Port Tressler, here in the Microtech area. Now, riding around can't earn you quite a bit of AUEC per hour. It's not going to make you as much as any of the methods that I showed you, but it's actually quite fun. After selling all the armor off we looted, I decided to invest that money into actually buying a nice set of armor and a really, really big backpack for this set of armor. Now, about the only last out, then they looted all your armor and drop off all those refined mole orders, so I bought a max lift tractor beam. We're going to get that stuffed on my back. Let's do a little next level cargo hauling. The Haul A is not going to cut the mustard for what we want to do. We're taking it to the next level, I guess, so head down to New Babbage, look for Regal Luxury Rentals. It'll be located in the airport right next to the elevators. What you want to do is rent the RSI Constellation Taurus. You can rent the Taurus for a little over 160K a day, and on our very first cargo mission that I planned on doing, we're going to make all that money back. Then we're going to use the ship to run all of those molars down to get them sold. Ironically, with our current Corvalex hauling rank coupled with the ship that we have right now, which is the Taurus, the very best place to go is right back to Bikini Point, going back and forth between Bikini Point and Riker Memorial down on Area 18. Generally, when I start out this loop in Bikini Point, I will grab 8 missions going down. 6 of them you've already seen, which are the extra small cargo hauls. Then I will grab the 56K Junior mission, and there is another Junior mission that has to do with ice. Then I completely and totally screwed the pooch by grabbing 2 of the missions coming back and totally forgot about the ice going down. So yeah, there is that. Big Brain Hawks is Smooth Brain Hawks. Sure, you can move all this by hand, but why not use the big boy tractor beam that comes attached to the Taurus itself, as long as you park just like this. Before you get out of the chair, use your mouse icon to open up the cargo bay. If you have the Taurus parked in the right place and you have your cargo bay open, well, you're ready to get inside the tractor beam chair. Use your mouse cursor to click the power on button. I'm telling you right now, if you try to use this tractor beam before you press Q, it is going to be the worst experience you have ever had in Star Citizen. When you press Q, it puts the turret into first person mode, giving you precise aiming and targeting. Like, I have no idea why it is not the default setting, because quite honestly, it should be. I'm not even kidding. The sheer volume of tears that I have heard from new players about how much the tractor beam sucks can all be avoided by making it a... I forgot to grab that ice. You're landing before using the way fast. Accidentally plowed over a box with another box. I'm probably going to be screwed on something that CIG added to the game as a quality of life. But no matter how it's order complete, we're already in the profit. Now it's time to deal with the clown shoes of trying to move 2 of these orders at once. Yeah, I don't think it will actually work. If you snap everything to the cargo grid in the Taurus, technically you're only supposed to go 3 high. I have 2 8 SCU boxes stacked up on top of much. I had to play it safe. My vision was getting a little bit. Let's load up on orders again. We're going to doing it right. We got to do is pick 2 found. That's not too bad. You can load those refined ship at crew only. We're almost halfway through Junior. That's not too bad at all. I stored my ship at crew 01. Now let's start loading up those refined orders. You can load those refinery orders into the space station, which means loading them onto a ship yourself at a later time. A much better option is just to load it into the ship you want until the inventory is full. That will auto-load it, saving you a bunch of time. The easiest place to sell if you're based out of Crew 01 like I am is going to be down on the gas giant at Orison. CIG has given mining a lot of love recently, so if you like playing with other people, your little crew can make an absolute killing. You could mine non-stop on the mole, and when you fill up, they can just drop off some empty bags while they take your full ones and get them refined. It's ridiculous. Make sure you store your ship and then take the tram to the Commons. The TDD is located in the back of the Commons. Now just find a commodities terminal and then select your location, which will be your ship. Remember all that space Tetris we played earlier when we were doing those hauling contracts? Well, we don't have to fool with any of that with these refined mole orders because they were all auto-loaded onto the Taurus, and now we're just going to sell them without having to even offload directly from the ship. That right there is completely glorious. This means you can stack up a ridiculous amount of orders and then just pick one day to drop them all off. When you sell cargo directly from your ship like that, there's always going to be a cargo transfer timer. I got back here as quick as I could, and it still looks like we have to wait a little bit before we can leave. I headed back to Crew 01, then realized, well, I need to go outside and touch grass for a little while. My dog needs a walk, and I still have to wait for those refinery orders to finish. Operation Touch the Grass for 45 minutes with the dog is complete. Now let's get these orders loaded onto the Taurus. We're going to head back to the Crusader system and hit up the terminal at the TDD in Orison. I'm back on the commodity terminal where I'm going to sell all my Terranite, Bexelite, and Quantanium for a massive profit. Job well done, Captain. That's right, I have promoted you from cadet all the way to experience. I hope I have given you the tools to find
concerned that this spelt the end of the Big Orange Machine. As has happened many times in the past, reports of the mole's death. While mining might not be the #1 cash earner in game in any given patch, it is one of the most fleshed out game loops in the whole game, with plenty of depth and opportunities for meaningful multi-crew gameplay. This will be my 4th or maybe 5th time I've made this guide, and something I really love is that while mining is quite easy to get started with, there's such a high ceiling in terms of what's possible now. Guides come in all shapes and sizes, and as you can probably tell by the video length, while I try to make my guides as information dense as possible, I am not going to rush over things as there's a lot to get through. However, I have made sure that all the timestamps and chapter markers are fully updated, so if you want to skip ahead or rewatch a certain part, please do use those to navigate around. Keep in mind that you don't need to rush out and buy any fancy ships though. The mining profession is a great way to earn your way in the game, and with the opportunity to rent ships or join friends as a multi-crew miner, there's no need to have anything more than just a starter pack. If this vid does make you want to take the plunge into SC, then just be sure to use a referral code when you create an account. Mine's the one up on screen, but if you've got friends who play already, just ask them for theirs. Mining is also just a great skill to develop in the game. As we move into the 4.2.1 patch, it looks like we're getting a cool new event focused on resource gathering, much like the supply or die event we had earlier in the year. And mining is going to be a great method for acquiring the necessary materials for free, without waiting in any queues to buy trade commodities. And further down the road, as the game moves into the realm of crafting and base building, we should see demand for mined goods increase. So what is it that we're actually looking for? Well, there are a huge variety of mineable materials in Star Citizen, each with unique characteristics. We typically categorize the minerals into the following tier list, based on AUEC value, with the S-tier mats, Rhyosite, Stellaron, and Contanium, and the tier 1 mats, Taronite, Bexalite, and Gold, being the most sought after. Tier 2 mats like Laranite, Borace, Beryl, Agresium, and Hephaestonite are something of a middle ground. They might have some appeal to miners who are just starting out, since they can be more easily found in good quantities, and are somewhat easier to mine. Then finally we've got the tier 3 materials, along with inert materials. These are essentially chaff, and really don't have much value at all. On an average mining run, your goal is to scoop up as little of this stuff as possible. Your bags have finite capacity, so every gram of this stuff you scoop is space that can't be filled with cash rocks. However, I do want to make sure that this guide can stand the test of time, since they do take quite a while to make. So it's worth highlighting that for events like Supply or Die, and the upcoming Resource Initiative event coming in 4.2.1, certain minerals that normally a miner wouldn't look at twice, all of a sudden become the most valuable thing in game. And with this in mind, when we come on to look at locations in the next section, we'll look at some helpful tools that can help you locate any mineable material. At an average time, you can use this to hone in on those S-tier and tier 1 mats, but if there's a special event on, or hopefully in the future, a specific material you're looking for Wicklow recipes or crafting, then you can use the same method to identify a good spot for these. Speaking of which, it's time to start thinking about where to go mining. While minables are dotted all across the Stanton and Pyro systems, it's good to know that they fall into two very broad categories: asteroids and surface deposits. From the names, they should be quite self-explanatory, but just in case, asteroids spawn in space and can be found around the various POIs, such as Lagrange points and asteroid bases, in the rings of the Moon Yellow near Crusader, and in the Aran Halo asteroid belt. The Aran Halo is one of the best places for solo miners who want the quiet life. It rings the Stanton Star between the planets Crusader, Stanton 2, and ArcCorp, Stanton 3. There are some extremely good map guides from Cornerstone that I'll link in the video description to help you navigate there. Just in the interest of saving a wee bit of time on this video, later this week I'll put together a small 2-minute explainer vid separately about how to get there. Surface deposits, on the other hand, are found down on moons and planets. Now again, I don't want to talk in absolutes, because for some materials that you may wish to seek out in the future, asteroids offer a higher percentage chance. However, generally speaking, I would lean towards surface mining. Most asteroid locations have a far higher variety of materials than surface locations. And while variety is the spice of life, it can make it harder to hone in on certain materials and tune your loadout. Also, surface deposits tend to spawn closer together, and are far more regularly found in larger clusters, with multiple rocks close together. Less flying equals more scanning equals more chance of finding a good rock worth mining. So in the current state of the game, I've tended to find that surface mining yields more good runs. Now one tool I really want to introduce you to, if you aren't already religiously using it, is Regolith.rocks. This website is hands down the best mining companion in Star Citizen, and it contains an absolutely insane amount of data that's been codified exceptionally well. Through massive amounts of surveying, they have compiled lists of all of the potential locations across Stanton and Pyro, and present the percentage chance of finding all of the various materials. You can also dig down into advanced statistics including the average rock mass and cluster size, as well as ranges for those figures. Now as has been the case for a few patches now, all roads lead to Cellin. In the old days, the absolute king of mining locations was Lyria, but that crown has well and truly passed. Cellin is one of the moons of Crusader, and it's a miner's favourite for a number of reasons. First, it has one of the highest percentage chances of Quantanium spawns at 7%.
Let Spirit Blossom Ari charm you with this new limited edition disc plate, glowing with spirit.
And with 12% for Taronite, 11 for Bexalite, and 15 for Gold, you can pretty much fall and trip over good rocks on the surface here. It also benefits from relatively low average mass, thanks in part to the presence of titanium or aluminium as the secondary tier 3 mats in all rocks. Aluminium rocks have the further benefit of a significant reduction to instability, while titanium's is pretty much neutral in this regard. This low mass means it's ideal for solo miners. However, as we'll come on to when we do a bit of multi-crew, you might want to look elsewhere for larger stones if you've got more mouths to feed with a share of the profits. To this end, I would also highlight the likes of Lyria and Wala around ArcCorp, where you'll find quant and tier 1 mats in slightly lower numbers, a higher top end of the mass range. If you want to add the other S tier mats though into your hunt, then you'll need to head to the other side of the jump gate and visit Pyro. The moons around Pyro 4 and Terminus all provide interesting opportunities. That being said, I think it's worth flagging one thing on Rhycite and Stellaron versus Quantanium. While these high value materials don't have the unstable cargo risk that we'll come onto with Quant, this is where you'll be looking to end each run and therefore start the next one. In the Stanton system, you'll find refinery stations mostly at the Lagrange points, with some additional ones added more recently at the various jump gate stations, even those that don't currently go anywhere, like Magnus and Terra. In Pyro, there is one at the Stanton jump gate station, and also at the major stations, Orbitry, Ruin, and Checkmate. Importantly, there is not a refinery at Gaslight Station, so don't get baited in by that. Proximity is obviously an important consideration, as travel time is going to form part of each run, and lengthy QT journeys should be avoided where possible. If I was mining at 7, then Crew L1 is going to be my logical choice, because it's the only nearby refinery. However, each refinery has bonuses and negatives for certain materials, either enhancing or detracting from your eventual yield. Once again, thanks to Regolith for a great guide to all of these stats. Keep in mind though that some of this is noise while some of it is actually important. This is going to be a common theme throughout this guide. For instance, outside of a certain event driving us to mine tier 3 mats, we don't generally care about the buffs or debuffs on any of these, because we probably wouldn't refine them. Instead, we should focus really on the S tier and tier 1 stuff, and maybe the tier 2s if that's what you're aiming for. So picking on Crew L1 for this example, we are neutral for Quantanium and Terranite. Stellaron and Rhycite won't matter since it's in Stanton, but we've got some quite chunky minus 6% nerfs to any Bexlite and gold that we put into refine here. If you did happen to pull in a load of Bexy or gold, then you might consider taking the extra time for a QT trip to her L2 for instance, where you'll get a decidedly better yield. Meanwhile, one of the other reasons we actually still quite like the ArcCorp moons is the ArcL2 refinery, which offers a 3% bonus on Quant, 2 on Bexlite, 7 on gold, and a neutral state on Terranite. But to do any of this, we're going to need one of 3 ships, the Mist Prospector, the Drake Golem, or the Argo Mole. The Prospector is the original mining ship, and for a while it was the only real solo option. It offers a single size 1 laser that's controlled from the pilot share, and gives great unimpeded visibility thanks to its bubble cockpit. The Prospector carries its ore in 4 ore bags on the sides, giving it a total capacity of 32 SEU. However, with a little trickery, it's possible to replace these with more bags, and increase this to 48. Argo Mole ore bags can be purchased from any station with a cargo deck. You can then unlock the ports on your Prospector with Right-Orc and K, and use a tractor beam to remove the smaller bags. The higher capacity mole bags can then be slotted on in their place, giving you more cargo. The Prospector will set you back 2.9 million credits from either New Deal at Lorville on Hurston, or any of the ship shops in Pyro at Checkmate, Ruin, or Orbitry. The Drake Golem is a recent addition to the verse, offering a meaningful competitor to the Prospector. Right now, it's not available to buy in-game for a UEC, so I'm sticking with the Prospector for the most part. I think it's worth a strong mention, as it will likely end up a bit cheaper when it hits the in-game shop soon. The Golem also has a base capacity of 32 SEU, held in 2 crates on the underbelly. Unlike the Prospector, there's no tricks to increase this, so you're stuck at that base capacity. Also, unlike the Prospector, while the Golem's laser is size 2, it's a bespoke model, so you can't exchange or upgrade it at all. We'll come on to mining lasers in a second. The 2 ships will craft roughly similar sized stones at the top end, but the Prospector arguably has more versatility here. The cockpit view doesn't have as much to recommend it either, I'm afraid, but the Golem's main advantage is its tiny size. With its small frame, it can act as a mining snubcraft, and can easily be carried inside a number of transport ships. Perfect if you want to run it currently available. The Mole has 3 mining turrets, each housing a size 2 laser, giving each more oomph than the Prospector's size 1. It also has 8 ore bags, giving it a total capacity of 96 SEU, 3 times the standard for each of the smaller ships and double an upgraded Prospector. For these reasons, many players will choose to solo the Mole, given its ability to solo larger rocks, and carry more in its bags. However, there are some drawbacks here since none of the lasers can be operated from the pilot share. You have to leave the comfort of your seat to move down to your lasers, leaving you very vulnerable if you overcharge a stone or if a hostile player comes across you while you're busy mining. Where the Mole really shines for me though is in multi-crew, with a well-drilled group of 3 or 4 players able to crack some of the biggest rocks in game. You can use multiple smaller ships to gang up on a higher mass rock, but adding in separate ships can increase the instability of a rock, making it more difficult to break. The Mole's lasers, however, are synchronized, so you can use all 3 on a single target without suffering any debuffs. A Mole will set you back about 8.9 million credits at New Deal. Do note that both the Mole and the Prospector can also be rented at a number of locations. There are now too many to list, so I'll include a link to a website showing rental locations down in the video description. This can be a great way to test waters with mining and see if it's for you. But the main advantage to owning the ship is that it makes it easy to upgrade your loadout, exchanging components as well as mining specific equipment such as lasers and modules that we'll look at next. When it comes to which ship, I've historically been a Mole enthusiast, even solo, but as time goes on I can really see the appeal of the Prospector and the Golem even more. I do tend to favour a Prospector when I'm out on my own. More planets and moons are getting weather effects, and it's easy to get blown off a rock while trying to start with this is lasers. Lasers come in 2 sizes, size 1 for the Prospector and size 2 for the Mole and the Golem. They actually come in 3 sizes, but the smallest size 0 versions of the Rock and Rock DS. The Golem's Pitman laser is a bespoke model. It can only be fitted to the Golem, and the Golem can't switch between any of the others. But outside of this, we essentially have 6 lasers. Before I go into my personal recommended loadouts, we'll also take a look at modules. These fall into 2 broad categories, active or consumable, and passive or permanent. Active modules have a fixed amount of charges or uses, after which they'll need to be replaced. More buffs. You'll find a slot for your gadget on the base of your backpack, and you can also carry more in your backpack so you can bring spares. Gadgets can also offer some unique statistic increases that aren't found anywhere else in lasers and modules, such as clustering. This can improve the way in which materials group together in certain shards of a rock, increasing your chances of getting a piece full of good mats without so much tier 3 or inert mixed in. The number one gadget I would recommend carrying with you on all runs is the Spear. This provides the biggest reduction in resistance at minus 50%, along with quite a tasty 50% increase in the green zone. That goes a long way to offsetting the 15% increase in instability. This is going to let you crack larger rocks that you otherwise couldn't just with your ship loadout. Also worth mentioning is the Optimax. This can provide a decent 30% reduction in resistance and a 60% improvement in clustering. So if you're after a material like gold that is particularly prone to messy breaks, this could be a good call. And the Boremax will slightly increase resistance by 10%, but it offers a 70% cut to instability and 30% clustering improvement. It's a bit specialist, but if you happen to be after high cruise. So I'm very conscious. Gadgets should form part of your personal gear set, but alongside these I would always make sure to be wearing a full set of armor and carrying a gun. If pirates decide to board you, don't be that person who doesn't even try to fight back. Cruise. So I'm very conscious that we essentially did a huge amount of mining theory just now, and have yet to crack a stone. But fear not, we're about to change that and get to the practical stage of this guide. The thing is that all of that stuff that came before is going to just make you a better decision, even if you're not the stages of the mining cycle using a few tips for soloing with the mole and taking it out with the full crew. So first up, we've got the launch phase of the cycle. Now you might think I'm going overboard here, but getting a smooth launch is actually an important phase. With a few tricks you can save a little bit of time. Always remember, time is money and even small amounts of it add up. So I'm basing myself out of crew R1 for this run, and I've called in my prospector. So first up, when I'm getting into the seat for the first time during a session, I'll need to set my power distribution, and there's no reason not to do this straight off the bat while we're safe in the hangar. In SCM mode, I want to add extra pips to my shields to give them a quicker regen time when I switch over, and in nav mode, where I'll spend most of my time, I'm going to send additional power over to my engines to give me as much boost regen as possible, while making sure I still have plenty for radar and my mining laser. You can always sacrifice a pip from weapons by turning them off completely, since they don't work in nav mode anyway. Then call for hangar so the doors get moving, and plot a course to Crusader in your map. There should be time to hover before the doors are all the way open, so you can be ready to head out as soon as they're wide enough apart, wasting no time. Then make your jump towards Crusader. Again, to save a bit of time and effort, we want to cut the jump short as soon as we get the message that we've entered Crusader's jurisdiction. As long as we're within the outermost edge of the planetary system, we can then redirect our jump straight to Selin, rather than faffing around with a multi-stage jump to get around the Crusader itself. Once at Selin, choose a QT point to warp into. This can be anywhere, but you can use it to choose either the daylight side or night side of the moon. Personally, and particularly for a video, I'm going to choose the daylight. Wherever you warp into, though, it can be a good idea to put a bit of distance between yourself and the POI. The POI may attract other folks who might just get tempted to ransom or grief the little mining ship. A lot of people consider mining to be the ultimate PvE activity, but I do not. We're in an open world and PvP danger is always a risk to be considered. For me, it's this feeling of being on my toes that keeps things interesting. And since your guns are pretty pathetic, you just have to PvP in a different way. Avoid being caught. Since ship parts are much more widely distributed now and the high-grade military and stealth stuff is locked behind looting and wicklow, I don't tend to make as big a deal of component loadouts for industry gameplay with this in mind. But assuming you've put some distance between you and anyone else, it's time to start scouting, and we do this via the scanning system. Switch over to scanning mode by pressing V for Victor, and that will ping on your surrounding area by pressing Tab on your keyboard. This will give you returns, bubbles with a distance marked in kilometers. It's important at this stage to know that there's more out there than just rocks. You might also get returns for gems and animals. Rocks will show up out to 15 kilometers away. Gem deposits and animals that we wish to avoid will show up at much shorter ranges of 5 kilometers and 2 kilometers respectively. So as you fly along letting out pings, you generally want to ignore readings that weren't there until you got within those shorter ranges. When we hover over one of the returns, we'll get a return signature in the middle of the HUD. Individual rocks have an RS of about 1700 to 1950, so this return of 8850 means we've got multiple rocks in a cluster. You can control the ping angle, making it wider or narrower by scrolling on your mouse wheel. This HUD has been improved to now show angle more clearly, but it's still somewhat bugged in that it indicates the max ping angle is 90 degrees when it's actually 360. Scrolling all the way out on the mouse wheel will get you out to a 360 degree ping, and if like me you've got a mouse that gives you a distinct click for each notch, each one up will halve the angle. Once you go up past 90 degrees, you'll get a visual representation of how tight you are. I want to hit this return with a more focused secondary ping, so I'll narrow my angle to about 45 degrees and just ping again with Tab. Now we can see the individual rocks and get a much more fixed location on exactly where they are, so we can move in for a closer look. Note how these returns are quite well separated. If the follow-up ping returns are really stacked on top of each other, then I've been tricked by gems and I can just ignore the site and move on. As we get closer in, we'll see that these are felsic deposits. There are many different rock types within the game, and now as you go deeper into the mining profession looking for very particular rock types, it can be beneficial, as they have higher percentage chances for certain mats. However, when we're just generally looking for S tier and tier 1 mats, it's probably easiest to just take a look at the contents of all of the stones that you find. To do this, we want to switch over to mining mode by pressing M, then hovering the crosshair over the rock. After a few seconds, we'll get a full readout. This is a very small stone with a mass of just over 500. It's got resistance of 44% and instability of 4.6. The game gives you a guide as to how hard it is to break, which it rates as easy, which is unsurprising since this is so small we could probably just scoop it straight up. Then below this is the composition. So we can see this piece contains 4.43 SEU of material, and that is divided into 45.8% beryl, 46.8% titanium, and 7.4% inert materials. So this is an awful rock, and we wouldn't want to scoop it. But it's just good to see the HUD clearly, so let's move on to the next stone in the cluster. This one's a little bigger and will need a crack, but it's still just beryl and titanium, so no thanks. On the third one, we get something a bit more promising, 11.4k mass with 55 SEU of material, of which just over a third is the tier 1 material Taronite. So a bit of back-of-the-envelope math suggests that we should get a theoretical max of 18.5 SEU of Taronite here. That's a good prospector rock. But before I bother cracking that stone and start scooping, I would still check all the other rocks in the cluster. Keep in mind that just because you've got a good one doesn't mean there's not something better around the corner. You don't want to find out that there was an even better rock after you've already filled most of your bags up. But it turns out the Taronite stone was the best of the bunch, so it's finally time to start actually mining. Since we've identified a good rock, let's take a wee look at the rest of the mining HUD. On the very left-hand side, we've got a readout of our equipped modules, so for me this is the Riga C3 and the currently inactive Surge. If I wanted to activate that Surge, then I would press Alt and 2 on my keyboard. It's Alt and 1, 2 or 3 depending on which slot that's sitting in at the moment. Then looking at the left-hand side of the split circle, we've got a distance gauge. You can see current distance to the rock, the max range of your laser, and the optimal range. The HUD can bug a bit with this meter as the caution area should be an indicator of where you're too close, but generally you should be safe if you're just within the optimal range. In the middle, we've got an indicator of what mode we're in this case it's fracture mode for breaking rocks. And on the right-hand side of the split circle, we've got the charge meter. Our goal with mining here is to build the charge level until it gets within the green zone. You can see current distance to the rock, the max range of your laser, and the optimal range. The HUD can bug a bit with this meter as the caution area should be an indicator of distance gauge. You can see it's Alt and 1, 2 or 3 depending on which slot that's sitting in at the moment. Then looking at the left-hand side of the split circle, we've got a distance gauge. You can see current distance to the rock, the max range of your laser, and the optimal range. The HUD can bug a bit with this meter as the caution area should be an indicator of where you're too close, but generally you should be safe if you're just within the optimal range. In the middle, we've got an indicator of what mode we're in this case it's fracture mode for breaking rocks. And on the right-hand side of the split circle, we've got the charge meter. Our goal with mining here is to build the charge level until it gets within the green zone and hold it there without drifting into the red. To the right of this, you can see the current laser power. So let's now just go ahead and pop the laser on with left mouse button. We can then control the laser power with the mouse wheel.
This is what's actually happening in your body when the scale won't budge. For weeks, my scale showed I wasn't losing weight despite...
Personally, I prefer to start a bit further out than the optimal range and get my power up to full. If that doesn't move the charge level, then I can go in a bit closer. As the charge level gets closer to the green, it's time to take the edge off and adjust to find a level where you're just creeping up a bit or dropping off a touch. This way we'll know ahead of time the sort of level at which we can keep the charge steady. Then as you get into the green, just try and keep it there, remembering that it's always better to let it drop out of the green to the bottom and lose charge than it is to overcook it and slip into the red. I do like to remind people when I make these guides that there's absolutely no style points available. There's no benefit to being right up close to that red line. If you do go into the red when the rock cracks, then you'll risk damaging your ship, and catastrophic explosions could take you out regardless of shields. Worth noting here that personally, in the solo mining ships, I don't actually switch to SEM mode when I mine. Switching to SEM would give you your shields, which can protect you from mild overcharges. But in my view, I think it's better to just be careful on the mining front, and be in nav ready to run like hell if I see any other ships approaching me. However, this is personal preference, and I am a paranoid android. You might prefer that extra bit of protection from explosions. When the rock is going to crack, I like to pull back, putting a bit more distance between me and that rock. There are a number of cases where despite being in safe range, you can still suffer minor damage, and you risk losing your modules or damaging your laser. And with the rock cracked, it's time to start assessing the pieces. Those with the purple outline are ready to be scooped up. If they had a full solid yellow outline, they would need another break or a secondary break. But given the size of the rock, it should mostly just be straight scoopable. I would start by scanning all of the pieces, so I can make a decision as to whether or not to scoop. I've got to always have one eye on my capacity, and there's no hard and fast rules here. I tend to look to average around 70% purity in my runs if I can. When you're ready to extract, switch to extraction mode by holding left alt and pressing left mouse button, then left click to activate the extraction laser. Keep in mind that there's no harm in being picky. There were a bunch of 50% pieces there, but I'm keen to make the most of my trip to selling. With just a small chunk scooped, I've got 3.5 SEU of Taronite. Give or take, that's about 30k's worth. I'm just on the look for another cluster, heading back up and returning to scanning. A minute later, I found this 18k mass rock with about 21 SEU worth of gold in it. Now don't be put off by guidance here. This is rated impossible by the game, and yet it's responding quite well when I'm getting charged, and that's without having to use any gadgets or anything else. I'd advise if you're just starting out that you give things a go. Get a feeling for what your build will manage and what's out of reach, and don't let CIG tell you something's impossible. Since this rock was a bit bigger, I've got some secondary breaks to make, with those yellow outlined rocks that will need breaking up further before we can extract them. Keep in mind that your laser power doesn't automatically reset, so make sure when you're going for breaks of these far smaller pieces that you take the power way back down before you turn on the laser. And this is also where that minimum power comes in, because even at its lowest level of 30%, the helix is building charge in this piece. Now we can employ an old miner's trick, feathering, timing cuts to laser power when we're towards the top of the green, and then popping it back on to catch the charge as we sink towards the bottom of it. Another way you can deal with this power is to increase your range from the rock. You're further away, you'll reduce your power. I wanted the opportunity to show a little bit of feathering here too. After a couple more rocks, I filled up my bags, with 22 SEU of Bexalite, 12 of gold, and 3.5 of Taronite. I've got a total of 37.6 SEU out of 48 SEU as tier 1 materials. And that's getting just above 75%, which is good with me. With no more room on board, it's time to head for home and do the return. And my key advice here is not to switch off. This is the point at which we could be feasibly held for ransom by any pirates who could catch us, since there's actually some value in our bags that we might be looking to preserve. When you're jumping between a hotspot and a refinery, always be sure to double leg your jump back. Don't fly the direct route between Cellin and Crew L1. Jump somewhere else entirely first, so I might point at her L3 for a little bit. Then I can cut my quantum jump by holding down left mouse button, and redirect myself to Crew L1. This does add a little bit of time, but it's got me approaching Crew L1 via a route that's just impossible to predict, so it's going to make it much harder for any pirate to guess what line I'm on, and they're more likely to catch the lazy people who are just flying a straight line between the 2 points. Cover that final bit of ground to the hangars as fast as possible. Learn whereabouts the hangars for your ship are likely to be, so you can direct a bit easier and then land inside. And once in your hangar, store your ship via the ASOP terminals and head back to the inner transit elevators, selecting the refinery. In this regard, the pyro stations can be a bit quicker and easier, since the elevator out of your hangar will also take you directly to the refinery deck. Now for the final stage of the mining cycle, refining. Head on up the stairs of the refinery into this room at the top. On the left here are the terminals at which you can sell your ore raw. You get the benefit of instant cash in hand, but you'll be losing about half the value of your mats versus refining them. So generally, we're going to want to go with refining. It's just good to know that you can sell ores here, in case you needed to do a quick ore sale to raise money for refining costs in a hurry. Now if we interact with the screen and hit begin, we can select the material location. In this case, I'll miss Prospector and click Set Up Work Order. This then opens a setup window. Up in this drop down is where we choose from the 9 refining processes. At first this might sound overwhelming, but as with so many things in mining, a lot of it's noise, and it's actually a pretty simple choice to make. There's an old builder saying here in the UK, you can have the job done well, fast and cheap, but you only get to pick 2 out of 3. And this logic very much applies to the refining processes. The key differences are spread across yield, how much your mats are kept in the process, cost of the job, and the time that it takes. My very simple way of looking at it is that you should always prioritize yield above all else. Yield is money, and the differences in price of the various processes versus the value of the mats will mean it never makes sense to save on cost at the price of yield. So that whittles our list of 9 down to a list of 3 immediately. Time or speed should in my view be your least concern. Yes, these refining processes can take between minutes and hours, but it's not like this is something you have to actively engage with. Refining happens passively in the background, whether you're logged in or not, and generally miners will look to stack up multiple jobs ahead of doing a cargo run to go and sell. So you can leave this ticking away while you go out and looking for more rocks. So now we're down to just Dinix solventation and Ferrin exchange. And ultimately, I'd make the call for Dinix just on the basis of cost. It's a bit cheaper, so it eats into your profits less. If I'm focusing mining, then I might spend most of the week building up jobs and refining them with Dinix. Then just as I'm doing the last ones, I might switch over to Ferrin, so that they make it in time for a planned cargo run. So I'll go ahead and select Dinix from the drop down, and then I tick to refine all of my tier 1 mats, the Bexalite, gold, and Taronite. I could refine the bit of titanium and aluminium, but honestly it's not worth bothering with, so I'd leave that and the inert unselected and just click to get quote. This job is going to take about 16 hours to process and cost 13.9k. Just to show the difference, if I used Ferrin, I could get the same job done in 5 hours 22 minutes, but the cost does ramp up to 28k. All in all, with the high yield approach, my run is worth about 225 grand. So this is a choice between losing about 6% or 12% of my revenues to refining costs. I'll stick with Dinix, but I'll look after those pennies. So that is a solid mining run. Chug a bottle of cruise, and while that lot refines away, head back to the start of the cycle and head back out. But what about that S tier? Well, I think it's worth looking specifically at Quantanium. This rock isn't massive at all, but the resistance is quite high at 45%. It's probably not strictly necessary, but I do also want to squeeze looking into gadgets somewhere in this guide, so this seems as good a time as any. To use a gadget, you want to first land and get out of your ship, and then just make sure you're on a nice flat surface and turn your engines off before you hop out. Then pull out your gadget with 5 for your utility items. You might have to just cycle past your tractor beam. Then hold F and left click when close to the rock to place it on it and let it warm up. You'll then need to calibrate it using the 3 sliders, jiggling them around until you get the waveform accuracy to over 90%. Hold F and click middle mouse button to get a good clear view while you do this. Once you get over that 90%, click on activate to turn it on, and then head back to your ship. Now thanks to that gadget, the resistance has dropped from 45% to 22%, and our green zone is a fair bit wider. Something to keep in mind when dealing with Quant is that it has an instability timer. From the moment you scoop 1 gram of it, you're on a 25-minute counter until it explodes. Best case scenario, that means that what's in your bags goes inert. Worst case, it can blow up along with most of your ship. So while I crack this rock, rather than just scooping it all immediately, after the break I also take the time to break in nearby Terranite rock. This just gives me something to fill my bags up with if the Quant rock doesn't use all my capacity. I then scan each individual piece of the Quant break, working out the order in which I would scoop them. Now based on the normal TDD pricing, Quant is roughly 25k per SEU, while Terranite is about 10k. So you could say on this basis that I should prioritise a 100% piece of Terranite over anything lower than a 40% shard of Quantanium. However, right now we have to factor in that there's also a player-to-player market, or P2P market. Quantanium is a necessary ingredient in the Wicklow Polaris. 24 SEU of Quant makes 1 Polaris bit, and those who are after that ship will need 50 bits as part of the recipe, so 1,200 SEU of refined Quantanium. Since Quant has been removed from all the loot tables that used to spawn in bounties, mining is now the only way, so a lot of players are happy to buy Quant off miners rather than doing the graft themselves, and they will pay decidedly more than 25k. Prices seem to have cooled a bit, but 60 to 70k per SEU seems to be the going rate at the time of recording on websites like UEX's marketplace. With this in mind, I am willing to scoop even tiny percentage pieces of Quant before I fill up on the Terranite rock. The 25-minute timer, increased from the old 15 minutes, combined with the faster QT travel speeds we have now, really makes this time not a big deal unless you're mining on some of Pyro's most remote destinations. Just plan around it, knowing the rough travel times between whatever moon you're on or asteroid location you're at, and the refinery, and then you will be fine. Also, don't freak out when the first yellow warning light comes on and starts pinging on you. You've still got a good 15 minutes at that point. As I mentioned, the mining process itself is not any different between the Prospector, Mole, and Golem, so with everything we've covered in the earlier chapters, it should serve you well whichever ship you choose. But I did just want to make a specific note of the Mole, starting with whether it's still possible to solo it. With the addition of turbulence in 4.2, many were concerned that this spelled the end of the big orange machine. As has happened many times in the past, reports of the Mole's death have been greatly exaggerated. Scanning is exactly the same as in the Prospector. Conveniently, you can access mining mode still in the pilot seat by pressing M, and use the mining HUD to identify good rocks. The key thing when it comes to the Mole is and always has been positioning. Unlike in the Prospector, you need to switch between seats to operate those lasers, so you're best off, if possible, getting into a spot where movement isn't going to be needed. For smaller stones like this, I would want to position so I can get at it with my side lasers. The Hofstees have a bit more range, so it's a bit more forgiving than the Helix. Just before you leave the seat, switch to SEM mode so that your lasers have enough power, and make sure that with your hands off the sticks, there's no drift in the ship. If there is, there's either weather or you're in turbulence. Move a bit higher and further forward if you need to get into range. Turbulence only really hits you below about 10 meters off the deck, so it can be quite easily avoided actually. Weather is trickier though, and I would avoid moons and planets with frequent wind and storms if looking to solo the Mole. Selen is looking quite peaceful today though. Turn the laser on by holding F and clicking power in the center, then it's all the same as the Prospector. You will certainly feel that additional power that the Mole lasers can bring. Unfortunately though, if pieces do decide to roll downhill like this, you'll likely be dealing with a bit more faff moving the ship to and fro. But that's the price you pay for the versatility of 3 lasers, additional power, and 96 SEU of storage. But where the Mole really comes to life is with a proper crew. The clue really is in its name. Now, as of patch 4.1.1, we've had a couple of game changers for mining, and while we've covered the basic cycle, it's now possible to use spare bags and a second cargo ship that you can actually QT to even if it's got nobody aboard, as a remote base from which to operate your mining expeditions. You can stock up on spare bags at a cargo deck, and load them onto your cargo haulers. Then you can park somewhere in dead space near to your mining location, and make runs back and forth from the ship, as opposed to going all the way back to the refinery each time. This opens up a huge amount of possibilities, and I've got to give a shout out to Sniping Cat and his midweek miners over on our Discord for putting together this fantastic mining op last night. We were using 2 C2s parked near Pharaoh in the Pyro system, and normally this moon isn't a favourite of the mining crowd, given its massive distance from any refinery. After we'd filled up on mats, we could just make the small jump back to our makeshift hub, and parking between the 2 C2s, one team unloaded your full bags, while the other fitted you with new ones. Pit stop complete, you can make the short jump back to the moon where our team of scouts had the next rock waiting. I loved every minute of it, but honestly, I should have really made a cup of tea on the way to the mining site, as from the point that we arrived to the point we left and unloaded the ship, there wasn't a second's rest. If you're using this technique, you'll also see the option to create a refining job from your station inventory once you've unloaded the bags and sent them down the freight elevator. Just note that this job will create based on any and all bags in the inventory at that time, so if you want to keep the jobs a bit smaller, you'd need to unload in smaller batches. If you'd like to get involved with mining ops like this and any of the other stuff that we do over there, then please do check out the Frontier Consolidated Discord. Links down in the video description below, and to get involved in activities like this, you don't have to join our org, it's open to all community members. When it comes time to sell your wares, you'll need to deliver your completed refinery jobs. Head back to the refinery, and on the screen below the job, select delivery destination from the drop-down menu. Now again, as of the changes in 4.1.1, we've got the option to either send jobs to any cargo ship currently stored at the location, or to the station inventory. Sending straight to a ship like my C2 is my preferred option for 2 reasons. 1, it means I don't have to load the ship myself, and 2, it means my goods will go into the largest boxes that the ship can carry. So if I've got 20 SEU of Bexalite for instance, and I load it into my C2, I'll get a 16 SEU box and a 4 SEU box. If you deliver to the station, then the maximum crate size will be 4 SEU. This will mean more work to load the cargo and unload at the other end. Unfortunately, we don't currently have a cargo management system, so once the box has been created as a 4 SEU, there's no way to combine multiple of these into a single larger crate for easy management. I'm hopeful that this will all come in good time, but for now this is why I do prefer loading straight onto the cargo ship. You'll then need to take the materials to market. SC Trade Tools will give you a detailed breakdown of where buys every commodity. It's possible to shop around a bit and find the best rates. However, as a general rule of thumb, the TDDs at major landing zones will buy nearly every commodity, have some of the biggest inventories to absorb stock, and have the least accident-prone cargo elevators for unloading. Wherever you head though, just be sure to add those doglegs. If you're a good target on your way back from the mining fields, you are a veritable loot pinata now. Upon arrival at your destination, unload your goods into the cargo elevator and send them down in the inventory. Then head to the point of sale, like a TDD building. Here you can interact with the trade kiosk, select the local inventory, and sell your wares. It is also possible sometimes to leave your goods on the ship, store the ship, and then select the auto-unload features for the trade kiosks. However, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. It seems quite unstable between patches. So I guess I'm going to leave it there for this mining guide. If you're still here, and you're still awake, thank you very much, and I hope you found it useful. As may have become evident by now, mining and industrial gameplay more generally is something I'm very passionate about in Star Citizen. But it's not just because it's a good way to make those space bucks. I also see it as an area with great potential for the future as SC evolves and brings rocks. So as I mentioned, mining loadouts are there to be experimented with. I think if you ask 10 miners from my org, you'd probably get 10 slightly different answers as to the perfect loadout. Things can also be tweaked slightly depending on what types of rocks you're going after, so while we're going full on into the weeds on the stat side of things, I'm hoping that this just provides you with the knowledge to make choices, that just builds if a different challenge comes up in the future. However, for my personal general use loadouts, I tend to roll with the following. On my Prospector, I'll equip a Helix Size 1 and use a Riga C3 passive module, along with a the ports on your Prospector with right alt and K, and use a tractor beam to remove the smaller bags. The higher capacity mold bags can then be slotted on in their place, giving you more ports on your possible to replace these with mold bags, and increase this to 48. Cargo mold ore bags can be purchased from any station with a cargo deck. You can then unlock the ports on your Prospector with right alt and K, and use a tractor beam to remove the smaller bags. The higher capacity mold bags can then be slotted on in their place, giving you more cargo. The Prospector will set you back 2.9 million credits from either New Deal at Lorville on Hurston, or any of the ship shops in Pyro at Checkmate, Ruin, or Obituary. The Drake Golem is a recent addition to the verse, offering a meaningful competitor to the Prospector. Right now, it's not available to buy in-game for a UEC, so I'm sticking with the Prospector for the most part. I think it's worth a strong mention, as it will likely end up a bit cheaper when it hits the in-game shop soon. The Golem also has a base capacity of 32 SEU, holding 2 crates on the underbelly. Unlike the Prospector, there's no tricks to increase this, so you're stuck at that base capacity. Also, unlike the Prospector, while the Golem's laser is size 2, it's a bespoke model, so you can't exchange or upgrade it at all. We'll come on to mining lasers in a second. The two ships will craft roughly similar sized stones at the top end, but the Prospector arguably has more versatility here. Much the largest stones the Prospector could handle. However, it's not given the lasers loadouts, I tend to roll with the following. On my Prospector, I'll equip a Helix Size 1 and use a Riga C3.
welcome.
Large shipyards and bugs in a sunset that is truly unforgettable. Whether you're just looking to spend the day cloud hopping with the storm lords, or relaxing by Green Circle's infinite spa, with shuttles arriving daily, what are you waiting for? Come, visit Morrison, the city in the clouds. Dining out and shopping. Crusader is calling. Stay at the luxurious.
The ASOP vehicle has been moved to our storage facility. To the ASOP vehicle retrieval system. Welcome to the ASOP vehicle retrieval system. Vehicle selected has been sent. Stand by. Visit us again. Welcome to the ASOP vehicle retrieval system. Your vehicle has been delivered to the following location. Please visit us again. To the ASOP vehicle. Welcome to the ASOP vehicle retrieval system. Your vehicle has been moved. Please visit us again. Goodbye. Welcome to the ASOP vehicle retrieval system. Your vehicle has been moved to our storage facility. Please visit us again. Welcome to the ASOP vehicle retrieval system. Your insurance claim has been sent. Thank you. Please visit us again. Welcome to the ASOP vehicle retrieval system. Please visit us again. Goodbye. Welcome to the ASOC Vehicle Retrieval System.
Where could they be? Bleep bleep bloop bloop.
We're gonna be a hell of a lot. Let me show you how to have the best start at Star Citizen Jacket as well as stand the floor. This is not going to be any fun. It is extremely important that you master those skills before you get naked in preparation for our next stage. I mean, I guess you can still use the second that you scoop a Quantanium rock, you are going to get a countdown timer. When that countdown timer reaches, the funny thing is, this patch the value of gold. That last chunk slightly the cool thing. Now I've got to move the mole, and it has a higher chance to spawn Quantanium. With another patch being so close, it's also going to be granite, but sadly, there's no countdown timer reaches 0. Well, that of these rocks are likely going to be different. It's not like gem mining where they're basically all the same. In order to see the differences, you will want to press M for mining mode while in your captain's chair. This will allow you to scan all the rocks that are there at the location. In the Stanton system, we are going to be looking for Quantanium, Terranite, Vexillite, and gold to a lesser extent. We're not going to be mining anything else. The location. In the Stanton system, we are going to be looking for Quantanium, Terranite, Vexillite, and gold to a lesser extent. We're not going to be mining anything else. Painting the fence is an extremely useful tool to the mole miner. That means parking your mole in such a way that your laser head on the front there will be in its optimum range. Definitely make sure to switch to SCM mode before you do any mining. You need your shields. To turn on your mining laser, you just need to activate the mouse cursor and you look for the power button in the top center left of the screen. When it comes to mole mining or rock mining, they are basically exactly the same when it comes to charge level as well as the laser range. This is why practicing sand the floor when we were rock mining the Argo mole, and the main reason why I'm highlighting this rental is because so many YouTubers say it's not enough. To rotate an object horizontally, you just need to wheel up and wheel up on the mole right now. Your parts are likely going to look like they're stuck in the floor, but don't worry about it, you'll be able to pull it out. To rotate an object horizontally, you just need to wheel up and wheel down on the mouse while holding R. Now that we have the hostie attached to the mole, it is now time to repeat the exact same steps with each of the modules. We're going to take it off the mole. You want to hit right Alt and K, that's going to unlock
Weapon systems on. Weapon system off. Shield off.
unlock all your ship ports. Head back, likely going to regret. You'll be able to possess and all of its power to do is take that operation, so most glorious place to mine in the Stanton system, and that's on selling. Just like with rock mining, we are not going to go to any surface locations marked by those upside-down triangles, because that is going to definitely increase our chance of getting ganked. Instead, we will once again pick a random OM marker and then fly down to any imperfections we see on the moon's surface. When you get down to the surface, start pinging away. The main difference between rock mining and mole mining is we're looking for returns that are less than 13 kilometers away, but greater than 5 kilometers in distance after.
Fracturing mode on. Mining mode on. Mining mode off.
After the first ping. That way we will always find the exact type of rocks that were returns that are less than 13 on the moon's surface. When you get greater than 5 kilometers in distance after the first ping, that way we will always find the exact type of rocks that we're looking for. Alright, so we found our first patch of rocks here. Now the main difference between mole mining and rock mining is all of these rocks are likely going to be different. It's not like gem mining where they're basically all the same. In order to see the differences, you will want to press M for mining mode while in your captain's chair. This will allow you to scan all the rocks.
Shields on. Fracturing mode on. Mining mode on.
artifacts that are there at the location. In the Stanton system, we are going to be looking for Quantanium, Terranite, Vexillite, and gold damage because they can become inoperable. Well, looks like it's time to get the heck on out of here. Let's head to Crew 01 to start the refining process, which ironically will net us more profits than it cost us to buy all the crap and to rent the rental mall, so I don't understand why it gets such a bad rap. As far as rental
Shield on. Extraction mode on. Mining mode on. Extraction mode on. Manufacturing mode on. Mining mode off. Mining mode on.
rental ships process, which ironically will net us more profits than it cost us to buy all the crap and to rent the rental mole, so I don't understand why it gets such a bad rap. As far as rental ships go, in my opinion, the mole is one of the very best because it can slingshot you into mega profits really quick. Just don't look at the rental cost and go, this ship sucks, because you know what? You'd be wrong. Do yourself a favor, when exiting the mole, just jump out of one of the mole arms. It's way faster than going down the elevator. Before you can refine the ore that's located inside the mole bag, you do have to store the mole because you cannot process it while it's on the pad. Make your way to the refinery deck, and instead of heading into the mining support center, we're going to walk up these stairs here. Now on the left-hand side, you can sell raw ore, but we're interested in processing our ore. Hit up the refinery terminal to begin the refining process. You just select which ship you have, in our case it's the Argo Mole, and then set up the work order. We only want to refine the good stuff, so we're going to toggle the Quantanium, the gold, and the Terranite. There are only two processing methods I will recommend. The first is Dinks, which takes longer than their Spheron exchange. Ironically, I recorded all this footage just before 4.2 landed, so refining times are twice as fast. In 4.2, it would only take us 10 hours to refine this ore. In a nutshell, that is mole mining as well as the refining process. Might as well fill up my hydration for the third time.
Welcome to the ASOC Vehicle Retrievals. Your vehicle, please visit us again.
It would only take us 10 hours to refine this ore. In a nutshell, that is footage just from the gold and the process. And you just select which ship you have to store the mole because you cannot process it while it's on the pad. Make your way to the refinery deck, and instead of heading into the mining support center, we're going to walk up these stairs here. Now on the left-hand side, you can sell raw ore, but we're interested in processing our ore. Hit up the refinery terminal to begin the refining process. And you just select which ship you have, in our case it's the Argo Mole, and then set up the work order. We only want to refine the good stuff, so we're going to toggle the Quantanium, the gold, and the Terranite. There are only two processing methods I will recommend.
stability.
can use a Riga C3 passive module along with a Surge active module, giving the lasers 2 mod slots. This build. But to do any of this, we're going to need one of 3 ships: the Mist Prospector, the Drake Nolan, or the Argo Mole. The Prospector is the original mining ship, and for a while it was the only real solo option. It offers a single size 1 laser that's controlled from the pilot's chair, and gives great unimpeded visibility thanks to its bubble cockpit. The Prospector carries its ore in 4 ore bags on the sides, giving it a total capacity of 32 SEU. However, with a little trickery, it's possible to replace these with mole bags, and increase this to 48. Argo Mole ore bags can be purchased from any station with a cargo deck. You can then unlock the ports on your Prospector with right alt and K. Before I go into my personal recommended loadouts, we'll also take a look at modules. These fall into 2 broad categories: active or consumable, and passive or permanent. Active modules have a fixed amount of charges or uses, after which they'll need to be replaced. They can be activated to provide a temporary burst of stats that last for the duration, but when they are inactive, they have no bearing on your stats. Passive modules are always on. They don't have charges, and will provide their buffs and debuffs all of the time. Each passive module has 3 versions: a 1, worst, 2, mid, and 3, best option. These get progressively more expensive, but it's worth all stick increases that aren't found anywhere else in lasers and modules, such as clustering. This can improve the way in which materials group together in certain shards of a rock, increasing your chances of getting a piece of full of good mats without so much tier 3 or inert mixed in. The number 1 gadget I would recommend carrying with you on all runs is the Spear. This provides the biggest reduction in resistance at minus 50%, along with quite a tasty 50% increase in the green zone. That goes a long way to offsetting the 15% increase in instability. This is going to let you crack larger rocks that you otherwise couldn't just with your ship loadout. Also worth a mention is the Optimax. This can provide a decent 30% reduction in resistance and a 60% improvement in clustering. So if you're after a material like gold that's particularly prone to messy breaks, this could be a good call. And the Boremax will slightly increase resistance by 10%, but it offers a 70% cut to instability and 30% clustering improvement. It's a bit specialist, but if you happen to be after highly unstable materials, it could be worth carrying just in case. Gadgets should form part of your personal gear set, but alongside these I would always make sure to be wearing a full set of armour and carrying a gun. If pirates decide to board you, don't be that person who doesn't even try to flee.
Not knowing what's going on in my business. That's what keeps me up at night. The fact that we run on Monday.com and that it takes our day-to-day and automatically turns it into graphs and charts, it's visual, it's crystal clear. It was a real game changer for us. We don't have to manually enter endless data or stare at cryptic numbers on spreadsheets. The Monday.com dashboards just deliver constant real-time insights. And those insights turn into actions, which turns into growth. It's that simple. And with Monday.com, it happens naturally. And as a manager, that is music to my ears.
Get your limited edition display before it's gone forever. Discover unique designs handcrafted with special printing techniques. Hunt for new, limited posters every week, only at Display.com.
Most cargo pants are loose, baggy, and they cook your legs in the heat. The Bearskin 6-pocket cargo pants are...
But assuming you've put some distance between you and anyone else, it's time to start scouting, and we do this via the scanning system. Switch over to scanning mode by pressing V for Victor, and let out a ping on your surrounding area by pressing Tab on your keyboard. This will give you returns, bubbles with a distance marked in kilometers. It's important at this stage to know that there's more out there than just rocks. You might also get returns for gems and animals. Rocks will show up out to 15 kilometers away. Gem deposits and animals that we wish to avoid will show up at much shorter ranges of 5 kilometers and 2 kilometers respectively. So as you fly along letting out pings, you generally want to ignore readings that weren't there until you got within those shorter ranges. When we hover over one of the returns, we'll get a return signature in the middle of the HUD. Individual rocks have an RS of about 1700 to 1950. So this return of 8850 means we've got multiple rocks in a cluster. You can control the ping angle, making it wider or narrower by scrolling on your mouse wheel. This HUD has been improved to now show angle more clearly, but it's still somewhat bugged in that it indicates the max ping angle is 90 degrees when it's actually 360. Scrolling all the way out on the mouse wheel will get you out to a 360 degree ping. Then if, like me, you've got a mouse that gives you a distinct click for each notch, each one up will halve the angle. Once you go up past 90 degrees, you'll get a visual representation of how tight you are. I want to hit this return with a more focused secondary ping, so I'll narrow my angle to about 45 degrees and just ping again with Tab. Now we can see the individual rocks, and get a much more fixed location on exactly where they are, so we can move in for a closer look. Note how these returns are quite well separated. If the follow-up ping returns are really stacked on top of each other, then I've been tricked by gems, and I can just ignore the site and move on. As we get closer in, we'll see that these are felsic deposits. There are many different rock types within the game, and now as you go deeper into the mining profession looking for very particular rock types, it can be beneficial, as they have higher percentage chances for certain mats. However, when we're just generally looking for S tier and tier 1 mats, it's probably easiest to just take a look at the contents of all of the stones that you find. To do this, we want to switch over to mining mode by pressing M, then hovering the crosshair over the rock. After a few seconds, we'll get a full readout. This is a very small stone with a mass of just over 500. It's got resistance of 44% and instability of 4.6. The game gives you a guide as to how hard it is to break, which it rates as easy, which is unsurprising since this is so small we could probably just scoop it straight up. Then below this is the composition. So we can see this piece contains 4.43 SEU of material, and that is divided into 45.8% beryl, 46.8% titanium, and 7.4% inert materials. So this is an awful rock, and we wouldn't want to scoop it. But it's just good to see the HUD clearly, so let's move on to the next stone in the cluster. This one's a little bigger and will need a crack, but it's still just beryl and titanium, so no thanks. On the third one, we get something a bit more promising, 11.4k mass with 55 SU of material, of which just over a third is the tier 1 material Taronite. So a bit of back of the envelope maths suggests that we should get a theoretical max of 18.5 SU of Taronite here. That's a good prospector rock. But before I bother cracking that stone and start scooping, I would still check all the other rocks in the cluster. Keep in mind that just because you've got a good one, doesn't mean there's not something better around the corner. You don't want to find out that there was an even better rock after you've already filled most of your bags up. But it turns out the Terranite Stone was the best of the bunch, so it's finally time to start actually mining.
the ASOC vehicle retrieval system. Your vehicle has been moved to please visit us again.
Need a hazmat team to head down to the subdeck. We got a chem spill.